All right, well, welcome and thank you to this month's Faculty Perspective in our e-learning training module. Today we're with SFC instructors Jenni Spencer and Amy Wolfsen. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we've got a few questions for you if you guys don't mind. Our first question, Tim, do you want to ask?
Sure. What inspired you or encouraged you to try developing synchronous communication in your online class?
Well, I think for us in communication, when we first started looking at even offering online classes, we wanted to make sure that the students were having as close to or as much of the same experience that they have in our on-ground classes. There were people that in the department were a little leery about moving communication classes online, as you can expect, because we are supposed to get better at communicating and interact with one another, and people didn't see how that might happen online where students may do things mostly asynchronously. So when we started building classes for online, we wanted to make sure they had that same synchronous experience, and we built some of the classes that didn't have speeches first, but obviously we needed that synchronous experience for the speeches as well that we do in our 101 and public speaking courses. And so when we were looking at different tools, we decided that we needed something that was synchronous for those students to give those speeches. The 101s had been offered before, not by us, but by other colleges online, but a lot of it was give a speech in front of an audience in your living room, and then record that and then send me the recording, which at the very earliest stages was on, I hate to say it, VHS, right? So that was kind of a bit crazy, and we wanted to make it more like the actual classroom. And so that's what really motivated us, I think, to start it. Jenni, do you have anything to add?
Well, I would just add that part of it too is when we started developing the online courses, I think one of the scariest things for instructors is you don't really know how the students are doing. You don't always know to trust that they're getting it or they're understanding it or they don't have questions. And so I think for me, at least, it really helped to connect with the students regularly. And so we could have some real-time interaction, and I could just get a better sense of where everybody was at, and have that I think I was afraid of missing in the online course.
So it really helped you to gauge their learning and to keep up with their progress.
Yes.
Yeah, they're able to ask questions. They're able, we're able to conduct a real class session. I mean, it's not just speeches that we use it for. We conduct real class sessions where there's discussions, and they're able to get their questions answered on assignments possibly for that week, or on some concept that's giving them trouble. So yeah, you're able to have a better understanding of your students and where they are.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the faculty that we've talked to kind of have a misconception and students that online classes are asynchronous only. So I'm going to kind of jump to the third question. How do you require these meetings, and then how do you communicate to that students before or while they're in the class what the expectations are of them?
I've done it both ways, where we never require that everyone has to be online in the live session at the same time. But oftentimes if it's required, they would do a makeup. They would watch the recording and complete some kind of makeup assignment. I think it's not realistic to assume that you can get all 25 students, at the same time every week. One of the ways that your second part, how do we let them know? One of the things that's helpful is we do send out a letter to students, an email 1 to 2 weeks before the course starts, telling them that this is going to be a part of the course. They're expected to participate in these live sessions, and here's the technology that they're going to need to be able to run these sessions. And then each week posting announcements and things, I usually tell them what the topic is so they get a sense of what to expect, and just a reminder every week of here's the link to get in. As much detail as we can give them before the live session of each week.
Yeah, I would concur with Jenni. I would add that typically we do try to stress it in that letter the 2 weeks before, that an online class does not mean a correspondence course or the old correspondence courses, that we will have these sessions, and we try to be pretty straightforward, that if they can't attend, there will be a recording. They're not going to be penalized for not attending. In the speech courses, I do let them know that they do actually have to attend those live. I let them know the week at the very beginning of the quarter that those are going to happen. And I also offer, as well as Jenni, who teaches the class, and another one of our instructors, we also offer some of those speech sessions to happen on the weekend. So we really do try to be available for students. We do set parameters. We're not always on. We do let the students, again, in that letter and in our orientation, know those parameters. Mm-hmm. But for that week, I tell them several times, I say, I know it's really hard, but when you answer the survey so I can set up the times, I need you to tell me all the times that you could possibly be available, even if it's slightly inconvenient, but you could be available, because obviously I'm giving up one of my weekends, right, to do this. And I want to make sure everybody presents and has a time that is good for them to present. But we do need all presenters there. And so then I schedule those speech times. There's several of them, and then they sign up for the time that fits them the best. But so for that, but they don't have to be there for all the speech sessions. I do tell them, at least in my class, they have to watch all the speech sessions. And again, like Jenni said, with the assignment, they watch the recording, they complete a small assignment on it to let us know that they were able to obtain the information. And it's one of their regular assignments for the week. If they attend the live, they don't have to do the assignment. They get the points for attending the live session. Cool. So and it seems to work well. I noticed your follow-up was, is there any backlash? I'm going to guess Jenni's going to agree with me. Actually, no. We actually have students at the end of the quarter that are so grateful for the synchronous sessions that actually ask for them. We've had students, I think I speak for both of us, Jenni can nod yes or no, that have actually asked for us to A, hold more, which is nearly impossible when you're teaching multiple classes, and B, hold them for longer periods of time. So typically our weekly live sessions are about 30 minutes. We found that to be kind of the good time, or the best practice time, I guess I would say. We've tried them for 45 or longer. The speeches are an hour, because otherwise I'd only get through one or two speeches in 30 minutes. But the live sessions are about 30 minutes, and students want it for longer. We'll stay longer if they have questions, but that's usually a good amount of time to get the information, and for students who are very busy, be able to attend and move forward.
Could you describe that weekly session? Is it like a Q&A for the weekly assessment, or is it a lecture, or?
Well, I think it depends, and I think it depends on the instructor. I use it a lot for imparting information, just like you would in a classroom for that week. So it's mostly a discussion for me. And I also use it, as I said, for the speeches. I actually, for speeches, they have what's called a conference week. So I could see this. I know that like English has portfolio conferences. You could do the same with papers. I want to make sure when we're using a software like this, whether it's Zoom or whatever software somebody is using, that they understand it and feel good about it. People fear public speaking over most anything else, right? And so to walk into an online classroom and have to adjust to Canvas, and then to walk into this and you're only seeing the student side, and then wanting them to just all of a sudden give a speech, that seems not a good practice. So what we do is we have a conference week, and they meet with me for 15 minutes, and we go over all the functionalities of the program that we use. We make sure I make them a presenter. We make sure that they know how to do all the controls. They test out their visual aid. And so these synchronous sessions can be used for a wide variety of things, whether it's learning how to use this so that then all they have to worry about, which is already stressful, is giving their speech. They don't have to worry about the technology as much, or whether it's imparting content. I know Jenni uses it for a couple other things as well. I use it for test reviews, but I'll let Jenni talk about some other reasons she uses Adobe.
Sure. I kind of have two different styles. I have it feels like every other week or every 3 weeks there might be a major assignment that's coming up. So I'll just break down the assignment and we'll do Q&A all the way through to make sure they understand. I'll give them extra little tips of where to find information and so on. The other sessions I do are just like a discussion in the classroom. So usually I have a couple slides that we look at with some questions to get the discussion going. We might watch a short video and then discuss that. Or I might send them out to grab something from a website and then we come back in and discuss it. But it's still only 30 minutes and it's usually based on some topic from that week.
Yeah, we'll even have them work in groups, right? So we can even have them work in groups in the synchronous session. So I think there's a lot you can do with it. With it.
Well, and it sounds like you guys are finding a nice balance between encouraging without requiring, but also giving some flex options with, if you can't make it. But I think one of the things that I've experienced as well is that when students experience the benefit themselves the first time, then they do enjoy it. Are you getting that kind of feedback from your students that they are finding value from that? I mean, obviously you said they want longer sessions, but
right. Well, and one of the things I found is usually the first week when I poll students to say, this is, I'm looking at times we can all meet, I'll get several emails that say, I work all these hours, there's no way I can attend these. And then I find that because they've seen one of them, they actually go in and change their work schedule and they start wanting to attend. And like this last term, I had 2 sections that I combined together, and I would have a regular group of about 15 students that would regularly, every week it was the same ones, and they just, once they get into it, they enjoy it, they kind of count on it. And the one time that I had to switch the times because of something had come up, there's a lot of, oh no, now I can't make it, when you've rescheduled it. So I think students actually find, like you said, once they see the benefits, they actually try to rearrange their schedules so that they can make sure that they attend more of them.
And I would add that I had 2 emails this last quarter. One is because I did cancel the session. We had them on Wednesdays this quarter, and I canceled the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. And I actually had a student email me, oh, I didn't actually have to work that night. And I was so excited to.
Oh, no.
And then I had a student at the end of the quarter say, I'm actually off work this last session. We're still meeting, right? And I said, yes. So, 2 different students. But yeah, and I think one of the best things about these synchronous meetings is that if it's not a speech, for a speech, we do require them to be on a computer. You just have to, even a tablet, when they're flipping through slides, the way the tablet app works, you can actually see their finger go across the page. So we do require a computer for the actual presentation speeches. But if it's just a discussion, a lot of my students attend via the mobile app, and they just love it. They can still see anything that I'm sharing. They can still interact. And one of the other things I think that they love is that they're able to actually connect with their classmates better. So in an online, typically an online student will see some of the same people, and they may get to know them somewhat during those asynchronous discussion boards. Hey, saw you in class again. But really, I think they actually make friends through these synchronous sessions where they're like, oh, you were in my other class. And, and they have the ability to chat on the side. Typically it's within the content, but a lot of times they'll come into the classroom early, and I'll come in and there'll already be a chat started. How are you doing this evening? What are you working on? And they'll be talking about the rest of their classes. So it does give the students also another way, especially those students who can only take online classes. It gives them another way to connect, feel a part of the college community, and make friends among the online students out there, right? So it's really nice.
Just like they would in an on-ground classroom.
Yes.
Right.
And I think one of the things that we're trying to bring up here is that with these kind of synchronous technologies, that online courses are getting to the point where they have parity with on-ground classes. We can get the same kind of interactions, the same amount of interactions, the same quality of social experience as well. And so it's really neat to see some of these tools getting more mature, but also getting easier to use. And that idea that online doesn't need to mean asynchronous. And a student that's taking online courses shouldn't be getting a lower quality experience than someone that's able to come to campus. And that's what's really cool about this. What advice would you give if you were going to talk to some faculty that were going to try to start doing this for the first time, to start integrating some synchronous experiences into their online course? What advice would you give them to get this going?
Well, I think, they could always, I would practice the technology before the class when you really need it for the class. So we often would practice with ourselves, making sure we understood all the things, because there's nothing more stressful than being live with your students and something's going wrong and you're trying to figure it out at the same time that they are. So I think trying it out ahead of time. One of the things that I really learned when I do the discussion types of sessions is I found that what I would do in 30 minutes in the classroom, it's just going to take longer in the live session. So I had to pare down quite a bit and found that I really could only get through maybe like 3 slides during my 30 minutes, and we would just spend a lot of time discussing them. But the first few times I had all this stuff I wanted to cover, and you realize by the time people either activate their mics and talk or use the chat window, it just takes longer. And so I've really got to the point where I can be okay with less information, but just keep building on the discussion. But I know the first time I started, I had way too much material, and it just felt too rushed and like I had too much to give. So that's 2 pieces of advice that I would suggest.
I think I would add that that to just know that things are sometimes going to go wrong, and that you just got to smile and flow with it and say, we'll figure this out. One of the things that Jenni and I did, I also know, which sounds really tiny, but makes a big difference, is we, for the first few years, I would say even, put a Post-it note up on our computer that said start record, because a lot of these sessions you can choose not to record them, and we'd get all the way through a session and figure out, oh, we didn't record. Now we're going to do it with no audience, right? So now we're just going to do a little lecture because we forgot. But just be able to flow with it. There are still times where things happen. Not the big windstorm that Spokane had, but a different storm had come through Spokane, and I completely lost power in the middle of a session, and so I just took a moment to breathe, and I didn't have power, but I had my phone, and so I just emailed the students. I didn't want to run the whole live session through my phone, but I just emailed them and said, sorry, I don't have power. We'll have to, I'll have to just record this live session, but thank you for attending. And because you attended the first however many minutes, I'll just give you credits. It's just going with the flow a little bit and being able to adjust, because technology is technology, and no matter how good it gets and no matter how much better it performs, there are always going to be hiccups. That's just life. And so you just roll with it, and to remember that I think for you to be the calm one, because if you're up there, frazzled, it frazzles the class, especially in speeches. So I just am like, hey, it's okay. We'll figure this out. I've had to have, because of the bandwidth and all the cameras and whatever that student was using, I may have students turn off their camera. It's just being innovative with your ideas and trying to make things function if they're not functioning. So.
Well, and I'll add to that. One of the things that both Amy and I have done that's been helpful is we've gotten a Google phone number that we give to students to text us. And so I will tell them the beginning of every session, like if they get bumped out for some reason, text me and tell me what's happening so I know if you're trying to get back in. And there's been times where, like Amy said, I've been bumped out, and the students, when I get back in the chat room, I saw all kinds of like, what happened to her? Where's she gone? How long did we stay? Yeah. So I will just tell them, if I get bumped out, someone in the class, please text me, and I can let you know what's happening. And then we can not worry about, when do we get back in? Is it going to work or not? And that's a great little tool when something on the computer doesn't work.
And we've experienced this. It's no different than an on-ground classroom. You've experienced this with the technology in the classroom. Maybe the computer doesn't load that day. I think SCC just experienced that with an electricity outage, right? And everybody went home. So, you kind of roll, I guess you roll with the punches is what I would say. You just go with it. Most of the time it works fantastic, and there aren't any issues, and we move forward and the students love it. But if there are, you just, just take it as it is and be creative.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing your advice with us and your experiences. We really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.